Hello and welcome to Microsoft Excel tutorial from ITME, and this is tutorial number 70. And in this video we are going to talk about pivot table. That is one of the most powerful function of Microsoft Excel, and this feature is basically used for doing kind of calculation, summarization and analysis of the data. So let's see how to work with pivot tables. So here I have some data and I want to summarize this data. Maybe I want to see the sales based on regions or sales based on products. I want to summarize that. So how to create a pivot table? All you need to do is go on to the insert tab, and the very first option you're going to see over there in the ribbon is pivot table. You can click on that to create a pivot table. The second option is, in case if your range is a table, you can go on to the design tab and then click on summarize with pivot table, and pivot table will get created. So now to create pivot table, I'm going to insert and say create pivot table, and then you get this dialog box, create pivot table. Now over here you're getting the first option is that what is your range from where you on which you want to create the pivot table. So by default it has automatically identified my table. If it doesn't identify correctly, you can also specify, select that range on which you want to create pivot table. The second option you are getting is of if you want to create the pivot table based on external source. So if you have data sitting outside Microsoft Excel, maybe it is in Microsoft Access or SQL Server or Oracle or any other external database, you can create the pivot table on that also. And then we have option over here is that pivot table that you want to create, that should be on the brand new worksheet, or you want to put that pivot table on an existing sheet. And if it is the existing sheet, what should be the location of that pivot table? So I'm going to go ahead with the default options. I click on OK, and now you can see one more new sheet got created, sheet 3, and there we have that pivot table over here. On the right hand side you're going to see we have pivot table fields option. From there you are seeing the list of all the columns you had inside your table. Now it's your decision that you want to see the summary based on regions or based on products. It's totally up to you how you want to make your table. So the way to do this is you simply click on, suppose I want to see based on region, I select the checkbox over here region, and you're going to see over here you on the left hand side in the rows level you started seeing the distinct regions, and over here you are seeing it's put over here in the region area. And now I want to see the sales in different regions, so I can simply put the checkbox over here, and as it is a numerical value, by default it does the summation of that numerical value. So now you are seeing the sales in different regions. And if you want to remove a particular way, you can simply remove that checkbox. Suppose I want to see based on products, I can simply click on it and remove off the field, or I can remove this checkbox from here. Now I am seeing the total sales. If I want to see based on products, I can click on over here, and now I'm seeing based on products. So these are the different ways in which I can create the pivot table. Now let's talk about automatic way of creating pivot tables. So I'll just go ahead and delete this. Now another way is when I go on to the insert, I can say just give me a recommendation that what kind of pivot tables I can create. When I click on that, or we can also get the recommendation from right clicking, and I say quick analysis or control Q is the shortcut for that, and then go on to the tables, and then it's going to give you recommendation that you want to do the summary based on the regions or based on the products. Different types of recommendations are there. So if I click on that, on a single click you can see it created a pivot table based on different regions and how much sale I had. So this is the way to create the pivot table. Now this pivot tables, you can also have a drill down feature. So if you are seeing that in East you had 32,000 sales, now if you want to go to those individual records that what sale you had, if you double click on that, what it's going to do is it's going to create one more sheet, and that sheet will be having the records of all the East region. So when I double click on that, you can see it created one more sheet, sheet 5, and that sheet is having all the records of East region. So let's delete that and go back to pivot table. So second feature we are having is we get the outline feature or drill through feature. So I can also drag and drop over here products over here. So now you are seeing you are getting these buttons, so you can expand and collapse. So you can see that you are seeing the sales in each and every region, and within that region different products. It's totally up to you. You want to put the region at the top or you want to put the product at the top. You can simply click and drag it up, and now you can see you are seeing at the top the different products, and when you drill down you will see the sales in different region of that product. And you also have option to move into the column. So if you want to see the products on the left hand side and regions at the top, you can just click and drag over here, and now you are seeing the products in the row the regions in the column, in the different columns, and the values over here. So this is how you can do the analysis, and all different types of combinations you can try over here. It's quite flexible. So now let's move on to some more sheets over here. I have big amount of data over here, and on this we'll be doing some analysis. So here we have the company names and state and regions and product names, all those different things, and I want to create analysis on this. So I can go on to insert a pivot table and click on OK. So it's going to create new sheet for me, and over here I want to do the analysis. So I want to see that I want to see summary based on region and how much total sales I had. So I click on that, and then I'm getting the total sales. Now one thing you're going to see over here is that whatever data I had over here, that was properly formatted in currency and 2 decimal places, but here there is no formatting. It's showing in 3 decimal places, and there is no dollar symbol. So what you can do is you can apply the formatting over here by right clicking anywhere, and you say I want to do the field settings over here, right? Or you can also do it from here. When you click on this region and you click on field settings, and from here you can see that what type of aggregation you want to have. You want to do the counting or summation or average, minimum, maximum, all different stuff. And then we have over here option for number formatting. When I click on that, and then you get the number format dialog box, from where you can see I want to format as a number or currency or date or time. So when I say I want to format as currency, and I don't want any decimal places, so let's make it 0 and click on OK and OK, and you get the result. So this is how we can do this calculation. Now one thing I want to mention over here is, like charts, it doesn't dynamically get updated. So if I go back to the original data and if I make some changes over there, let's say if I say that this quantity was 90, this is 20, I have made some changes over here, but if I come here, still you can see this data is not getting updated. So if I need to get it updated, I just go on to analysis, and when I click on refresh, just notice that the data got updated over here. So this is the way, whenever you make changes to the actual data source, you need to come here and click on refresh, or whenever you will close and reopen the workbook, this pivot table will get recalculated. Okay, so this is all about pivot tables, and further things we want to talk about is, let's talk about some different options available within the pivot table ribbon. So very first option you are seeing is what name you want to give to this pivot table. So by default it's pivot table 4, you can give some other name. And then we have this option buttons dialog box, from where you can do a lot of other customizations related to layouting. If your cells are empty over here, like in summary, what should be displayed? If cells have some kind of error, then what text should be displayed? Whenever you are updating, the column should auto fit or not, and cell formatting should be preserved on update or not. Totaling, whether you want to show these kind of grand totals and subtotals or not. And whenever you are doing the sorting on the columns, they should be on the custom sorting or not. Display, whether you want to have those expand and collapse buttons available or not, and a lot of different settings are available over here that you can customize. In terms of printing, that first row should be repeated on each and every page if you have pretty long report or not, whether you want to display those expand and collapse buttons. Then we have settings related to data, whether you want to have the drill through feature. So if you double click on that, it takes you to the detail of the data, whether you want to have that source enabled or not. So a lot of different settings are available. And then we have last, title and description. This is for low vision people to watch, so the narrator will tell them that what kind of object it is and what is the purpose of that, so you can have some kind of title and description. Okay, so now moving on to some other settings. You can have field settings for different fields. So when I click on different fields, you can do the settings for regions, how the calculation will happen, and printing and layouting and all those different stuff. And grouping and ungroup you can do. Slicers we're going to talk about later. Refresh the data. If you want to change the data source, you can change the data source. You can clear the entire sheet rather than individually removing these checkboxes. You can say clear. These different settings are there. Now let's talk about these fields, items and sets. So what we can do is, let's get back to this one. So for instance, over here, if I am seeing the sales based on different products over here, and I say that I don't have, let's do the sorting over here. I can do the sorting from here. So let's do by descending. Okay, so I say that I have very less amount of sales in the music player and Bluetooth and speaker. I want to group them and show display as others. So what I can do is I can go on to analyze, and then I say field, and I want to create a calculated item, and that calculated item I want to give name others, and inside that others I want to keep the items like music player. So I have list over here. You can see the list of columns and what items are there inside. So inside products, I'm seeing the list of products. So I want to put in the others category, I want to put the music player. So simply double click on that and then put a plus sign, and then I want to have a Bluetooth speaker plus, and you can see over here if it contains a space in between, so it encodes in within single quotes. And then at last I want to have printer. So these are all the items I want to have, and I click on OK, and now you can see that you are seeing others over here at the top. And now further I need to manually remove these items that I'm not interested in: music player, Bluetooth speaker and printer. So from here I can remove music player, Bluetooth speaker and printer, and I click on OK. Now you can see you are seeing only others, and now I can change the sorting back to normal. So this is how we can do the customizations. Now another thing, now let's delete this, and let's say I didn't have this column total. I delete this column, and let's say I had just quantity and price, and then I want to have the total coming up in the pivot table. So there also you can do the calculation. So sometimes it happens that data is coming from external source, you don't really have control on restructuring or adding some columns, so you can do in the pivot table. So let's do insert a pivot table and OK. And now over here I want to do the summary based on different regions, and you can see over here I don't have total, so I want to multiply quantity with the price. So what I can do is I can create a custom column. So I can say I want to create a calculated field, and that field name is gonna be total sales, and then over here I want to say that total sales is basically a multiplication of quantity multiplied by price. So this is my formula, and when I click on OK, and now you can see that total sales got created and it got added over here, and you are seeing the totals over here. So this is how you can do the categorization. Now what else we have over here is we can also have relationship. If you have data sitting in with the different tables, different sheets, you can set the relationship between them for doing the mapping. And now let's talk about a function called as pivot data. So I can say GetPivotData is a function newly introduced in Microsoft Excel, and this function can fetch the data. Using this function you can fetch the data from the pivot table. So you need to specify what is the data field you want to get from. So I want to get the data for total sales, so I need to put in double quotes total sales, and you need to specify the pivot table name or location. So I can just put the address of the first cell over here. So I say over here I can simply click on that and I get over here, so it's enough. So now when I click on OK, it's going to show the total sales I had over here for all different regions. When I press enter, you are seeing the total sales. Now if you say that I want to see the total sales for only the west region, so you can say same function equals to GetPivotData total sales, comma, this is my pivot table from where I need to fetch the data. Now you can see you can pass on any number of arguments, that is conditions. So it can be on the columns or it can be on the rows. So I can say I want to get the data for what we had over here, that was region, and then I'm looking for a row where region equals to west, and I press enter key, and you can see that whatever data I have had over here I'm getting here. So this is how we can create the pivot table. So we saw that how to add the data over here into columns, into regions and into totals. Now let's do some other stuff. So let's say if I want to have the region coming at the filter level, and then you have the states coming up over here, and then we have the products coming up over here. So this is how we can summarize this data. So here what's unique is you can see at the top level you are seeing filter. So by default it is showing the data for all the regions. So when I click on over here, I say just show me the data for only west. When I click on OK, now it's showing all the states in west, and then what all different products you had sale in different region. So this is how we can do the summarization, and still Microsoft Excel's pivot table is quite vast. You need to just have time to play with all different features. Now let's talk about some more other stuff available. Go on to design. Here we have controlling on whether you want to have subtotaling or not, the grand total should be there or not, a report layouting, different ways are there. So all different kind of customizations. You want to have banded rows or not, you want to have banded columns or not, column header and row headers you want to have or not, and then different styles are there, different themes you can apply. So different colors are there. One also option over here is defer layout update. So as you are just adding the items over here, you want to stop Excel from calculation, because every time you are adding these items over here, Excel starts doing calculations. So real-time data where you have millions of records, it can take quite a good amount of time to get it updated. So what you can do is you can say that keep hold on, let me decide that what item is going to go in which location, and then when I click on update, then only update the layout of the table. So you are just explicitly stopping Microsoft Excel from updating or doing the calculation over here. In the next video, I'm going to talk about pivot tables. So hope you like this video. If you have any other questions or comments, please post in the comment section below, and don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next video.